Good evening and welcome to the Brevard City Council regular meeting of October 6, 2025. And it is wonderful to see everybody who has joined us here in person, and a big welcome to everybody that is watching us on the live stream. I'd like to go ahead and introduce everyone that is sitting up here. On my far right is our city attorney, Mac McKellar. Next to Mac is Councilman Lauren Wise. Next to Lauren is Councilwoman Pamela Holder. Next to Pamela is Councilman Mac Morrow. I'm Mayor Maureen Kopoloff. To my immediate left is our city clerk, Denise Hodgson. Next to Denise is Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Gary Daniel. Next to Gary is Councilman Aaron Baker. And next to Aaron, oops, well, he normally would be sitting there. Next to Aaron,
We'll be.
all right. Well, next to Aaron is usually our city manager, Wilson Hooper, who has disappeared on me there for a minute, but I'm sure he'll return momentarily. With that, we are very pleased tonight to have Howard Rock, who is the president of the Brevard Jewish community, who has joined us this evening to give our invocation. Howard?
Thank you. The Brevard Jewish community is 25 years old. It was formed because of an ad in the newspaper 25 years ago. Is there anybody out there who's interested? Are there any Jews out there? There were plenty. Enough, anyway. And we're a very active organization. We have services every Friday evening, sometimes on Zoom, sometimes in person. We have our high holidays. We celebrate holidays. We put on concerts. And we've had a very active speakers series, of which some of you may have come to, bringing in people from all over our area, usually academics who have spoken on all sorts of issues. And we've drawn very large audiences, over 100 very often, most of whom are not Jewish. So I'm really pleased to be here and to see all of you. For my invocation, I'm going to first, I want to read something by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, a very famous rabbi who died only a few years ago. He was the chief rabbi of England for quite a few years, a major scholar and public figure. And he wrote, "It is possible to live a life without God, just as it's possible to live a life without humor or music or love. One can no more prove that God exists than one can prove these other things exist to those who lack a sense of humor, or to whom Schubert is mere noise, or love a figment of romantic imagination. The late Sir Isaiah Berlin used to say to me in his sonorous voice and with a mischievous smile, 'Chief Rabbi, don't talk to me about faith. When it comes to God, I'm tone deaf.' I never argued the point with him. At the age of 80, I felt he was entitled to his agnosticism. On reflection, I should have done so. He had striven to appreciate music and poetry, Russian literature, the history of ideas. He knew that one can live a life without these things, but it will be smaller, much more circumscribed, impoverished. How much more so than in the case of faith?' When I say that, I want to say, it means to me not necessarily strict. It can mean different things to different people, but it's spirituality. It can mean a very literal interpretation and strict, or it can be a much more what you see in much more modern views as well, and doesn't require, a fundamentalist approach. If you want that, it's fine, but it doesn't require it. And spirituality is important in any kind of life. Now, all over the world, Jewish communities recently celebrated the 10 days of awe, beginning with the Jewish New Year, commemorating the creation of the world 5,786 years ago, ending with Yom HaKippur, a day of reflection and repentance. Repentance over areas in which we have fallen short individually or collectively. And then the idea of tshuva, of turning and becoming whole again, seeking to overcome our shortcomings, becoming a better person. It's in that spirit that I give this invocation to all of you, that everyone, both in the audience and in this important body, will take the time to reflect on the areas in which he or she has been true to himself or herself, to their charge, and areas where they still need improvement. It's only with self-reflection and a sense of conscience that we're able to make important decisions that affect our lives. And so let me end this with a benediction that's given at every synagogue at this time of year. I'll say it in Hebrew a little bit. Zachrenu Adonai Eloheinu bo letova, amen. Eternal our God, remember us. Ufkadenu bo levracha, be mindful of us. V'hoshienu bo l'chaim, and redeem us for a life of goodness and blessing. And they say the book is closed on Yom Kippur, but now it's reopened again, reopened for all of us to live a significant, fulfilling, and meaningful life. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. And Howard, I just want to say that we are so happy that we have an active Jewish community here in Brevard, and you bring so much to our community. I know I've been to many, many of the different events that you stage for the community. And I also think it's absolutely wonderful and is sort of a symbol of our town that you meet at the Catholic Church, right? The Catholic Church opened their doors to the Jewish community how many years ago?
About 25.
About 25 years ago.
We don't have the funds for a building.
Yeah.
We are dependent on the various congregations and especially the Catholic Church and what it's done for us. Yeah.
Well, that's just a wonderful way to do it. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for those thoughts. All right, if everyone would stand and join me in the pledge. Attention, honor, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum. All members are present.
Okay. Council, you've got the draft agenda in front of you. Are there any changes or modifications to the agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Council, you've got the draft minutes of the September 15th, 2025 regular meeting. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. All right, we are going to move on to one of the best parts of our meeting tonight, and that's certificates, awards, and recognition. And we are actually going to start with a very important one. Mr. Manager is going to brief us on it.
Yes, ma'am. Tonight, I'm going to ask you to exercise your code responsibility to confirm the appointment of Brevard police chiefs. And in particular, I'm going to ask you to consider passing the attached resolution, which would name Dr. Jack Mormon, EDD, as interim police chief for the Brevard Police Department. Dr. Mormon has a 30-plus year career in law enforcement, both with a traditional municipal department in the Raleigh Police Department, but also in higher education law enforcement. And he served a long stint as the chief of the North Carolina State University Police Department. And since his retirement from that post, he's served as interim chief twice of North Carolina A&T State University and Presbyterian College Police Departments. He also has significant academic credentials, an MPA, which is a relevant degree in this field, but a doctorate in education specializing in adult education, right, Jack? Which comes in handy when you're working with cops who you want to try to train up and improve, and having his skill set helps him be successful at that important task of a police chief's job. And so, if you see fit, having considered his qualifications, I'd ask that you pass the attached resolution, and if you do so, we will swear him in and he will become our interim police chief.
Council, do I have a motion to approve the resolution confirming the appointment of Dr. Jack Moorman as interim chief of police?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution is passed. I believe Madam Clerk can proceed with the swearing in.
Come on, Jack. All right, let's frame ourselves so that Becky can take a picture of it.
Do the official part.
Slightly important.
I can't remember. All right, so how do you want me to do it this way? Okay. Repeat after me. I, Jack Moran,
Jack Mormon,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend
that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws of said state,
the Constitution and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office as interim chief of police
the duties of my office as interim chief of police
for the city of Brevard,
for the city of Brevard.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
Thank you. Sir. Thank you.
So Jack, I'll ask you to stay standing and share a few words with us in a minute, but now that we've dispensed with the formalities, I just want to make a few additional comments about Jack. The first is that he came referred to us by two independent parties. And so I knew that he was qualified and fit for this job when those two independent folks referred him to me. The second thing is that he's been a great advocate for his officers throughout his career, and I think he's going to bring a lot of experience and a lot of lessons from 30-plus years in law enforcement and working with adults in an education setting to our department. Today was his first day on a regular schedule. He got to meet most, probably not all, but most of the folks who are working for the department, and he started to learn about them and share some of his leadership thoughts with them. And his contract is for 3 months with the possibility of month-by-month extensions. But I don't think we'll need those month-by-month extensions because we've been making progress on our permanent chief recruitment. The last thing I'll say is that at some point, when his certification is transferred by the North Carolina Standards Division, he will be able to act in a sworn capacity. So you notice he's not wearing a uniform or wearing a gun right now, and it's because that certification hasn't come through. But when it does, he'll be able to act in a sworn capacity, and we'll have to give him another oath for that part. But today, it's just the general oath to come and work for the city. So, Jack, if you wouldn't mind sharing a few words and telling us a little bit about you.
Okay.
And sorry, could you do it into that microphone so the folks at home can hear you?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So I think Ms. Hooper gave a good analysis of kind of what I've done throughout my career. As he mentioned, I started with the Raleigh Police Department. Great opportunity to do most everything there is to do in law enforcement, from K-9 to drugs and vice to running the fugitive warrant squad to district captain. I had gotten my MPA from NC State. NC State was in my district, So transferred over to NC State. As he mentioned, I did additional 13 years there. And since my retirement, have just been serving in this capacity, helping out institutions, helping out police departments. Again, to me, an important part of it is making sure that you're working together as a team. It's a I began law enforcement in 1987. It was a very different environment then. You had probably, when I was hired by Raleigh PD, they ran 30 recruits in an academy. You probably had 600 to 700 applicants. If you got hired, you felt very fortunate. Now agencies are having trouble filling their positions. Sometimes they have more vacancies than applicants. And I think what we have to do is look at opportunities that we're given to our employees, to our officers. We have to learn what's important to them. So my research for my doctorate was actually on campus law enforcement job satisfaction. I looked at the job satisfaction from municipalities to do so. What our officers want, they want autonomy. They want to be able to make their own decisions. They want feedback on how well they're doing. And they want leadership that will stand up for them and support them and will back them. That's what our officers are looking for. The folks I've met today, every one of them seems to be great people, very dedicated to their job. You've got a great agency here. You've got a beautiful town. You've got, or city. You've got a lot of committed individuals, and I'm just thankful to have the opportunity to be a part of it for 3 months, and I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Welcome aboard. All right. Oh, we've got a couple more proclamations here.
Sounds like he's gonna be really good for us. That's what we needed.
All right, our first proclamation is for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I'm very happy that the new Executive Director of SAFE, Debbie DeBruin, did I say that right, Debbie? DeBruin. Debbie, come on up here. She has joined us. Debbie has actually been with SAFE for 6 weeks now, right?
I'm in my 6th week.
In her 6th week, and we are so glad she's here because SAFE is one of our very, very important partner organizations. And so, anyways, this is proclamation number 2025-24. Let's see, I'm supposed to talk into the microphone, sort of. Domestic Violence Awareness Month, October 2025. Whereas intimate partner violence alone affects more than 12 million people every year, and whereas an average of 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the United States, more than 12 million women and men over the course of a single year. And whereas nationally, nearly 3 in 10 women and 1 in 10 men have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by a partner and reported it having a related impact on their functioning. Think about those numbers, folks. 3 in 10 women. That is distressing. Whereas, and of course, 1 in 10 men. That is also distressing. All of it is. Whereas almost half of all women and men in the U.S. have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. And whereas women ages 18 to 34 generally experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence, whereas current or former intimate partners account for roughly 1/4 of women killed in U.S. workplaces. Whereas the presence of a gun in domestic violence situations increases the risk of homicide for women by 500%. Whereas the city of Brevard recognizes the significant impact domestic violence has on Transylvania County individuals, families, children, schools, workplaces, and places of worship. And whereas by working together, we can build a community where intimate partner violence is not tolerated and all individuals can be safe, feel respected, and live free from abuse. Now therefore, I, Maureen Kopoloff, Mayor of the City of Brevard, hereby proclaim the month of October 2025 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Brevard and urge the citizens of Brevard to work together to eliminate domestic violence from our community, to keep our community members safe from this crime, and to stand with survivors and victims of domestic violence. And we will get a picture. Yes, here we go.
Thank you very much.
And do you want to say anything? You have a moment to talk about
Sure,
safe.
I would love
Yeah.
that. I'm originally from Indiana, and I am just starting my 6th week here. However, it's the 3rd organization that I have led that focuses on domestic violence. It is a public health crisis in this country. We deal with trauma and traumatized victims every single day. And the thing about it is they don't want to be called victims. It's hard not to call them that because of what they've endured. And I'm not just talking about the person that the abuse went toward. I am talking about their children. I'm talking about the workplace. I'm talking about anyone, good friends, that worry about that person who's being violated. So for a city the size of Brevard to have an organization that specializes and deals with domestic violence is remarkable. It truly is. So I commend the city for it. I'm really excited to continue to work here. I love the community so far, so thank you. And thank you for letting me say a couple of words.
Of
I
course.
appreciate it.
Well, one of our great community partners, and I look forward to working with you.
Me too.
So, thank you.
And you as well.
Yeah, look at, we all the new people meeting
I
one
know,
another.
it's great. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next we have Fire Prevention Month. And we have Captain Adam Huey. Did I get that right, Captain? Captain? Yeah, very good. Who is joining me up here for Fire Prevention Month proclamation. Proclamation number 2025, TAC 25. Fire Prevention Month, October 2025. Whereas the city of Brevard has been committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting Brevard, and whereas the 2025 Fire Prevention Week theme, quote, charge into fire safety, lithium-ion batteries in your home, unquote, serves to remind us of the importance of using, charging, and recycling lithium-ion batteries safely to reduce the risk of fires in homes and communities. And whereas fire remains a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and the presence of lithium-ion batteries in many household devices introduces unique fire risks. Whereas most of the electronics used in homes daily, including smartphones, tablets, laptops, power tools, e-bikes, e-scooters, and toys, are powered by lithium-ion batteries, which if misused, damaged, or improperly charged, can overheat, start a fire, or explode. And whereas the National Fire Protection Association reports an increase in battery-related fires, underscoring the need for public education on the safe use of lithium-ion batteries. Whereas residents should follow 3 key calls to action: buy only listed products, charge batteries safely, and recycle them responsibly to prevent battery-related fires. And whereas lithium-ion batteries store a large amount of energy in a small space, and improper use such as overcharging, using off-brand chargers without safety certification, or exposing batteries to damage can result in fire or explosion. Whereas the proper disposal and recycling of lithium-ion batteries help prevent environmental hazards and reduce fire risk in the home and community. Whereas Brevard Fire Department is dedicated to reducing the occurrence of fires through prevention, safety education, and community outreach. Now therefore, I, Mayor Maureen Koploff, and the Brevard City Council do hereby proclaim October 2025 as Fire Prevention Month throughout this community. We urge all Brevard citizens to help prevent battery-related fires and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Brevard's fire and emergency services. Okay, and Adam, talk about what fire department's doing this month.
Well, this month we've got scheduled to see 4 different grade schools in the district, and a combination of 8 preschools, excuse me for my voice leaving, 8 preschools and homeschools. The homeschools come for a station tour, so we get to talk to them. I think right now it's 2,300 kids that we'll get to see this month.
Wow.
Right now it's scheduled up, and we still get phone calls for different preschools and stuff, but all of our big schools, Brevard Elementary, Biscuit Forest Elementary, Brevard Academy, we've got all those scheduled up, so we get to see all those kids. And then career day for the 7th grade, we get to go and talk to them, so fire prevention and the career talk, so a lot of community outreach in October also, so. But it's a good time to get there. We did not get a chance last year to see everybody because of Helene, so this year has been extra special to get back to the schools and see the kids and get to talk to them and get them to see us, because it's good for the kids to see us too. So they're not afraid of us or afraid of the trucks or anything else.
Well, I bet the kids just love it. Oh, my goodness. That's got to be the best thing all month, huh?
They do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, and I appreciate all the outreach that you guys do, because education and prevention is so important. We don't want you to have to respond to a fire. We want you to teach everybody so that we don't have them. So, yeah, I think I saw you guys out there with a whole batch of little kids earlier today.
We did.
Yeah,
We were at
yeah.
First Baptist Church this
That's where I
morning.
saw you guys. Yeah, yeah. Wonderful.
All righty. Well,
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, our third proclamation, and October's a busy month. October is a busy month, but every one of these is important. So that's why we actually take time to read them and not just have them in consent or something. But this is proclamation number 2025 TAC 26, and this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we don't have anyone in particular coming up to receive it, but this impacts so many individuals and so many families that this is for everybody, because I think everyone has been touched by this problem within their families. So, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas the city of Brevard joins our nation in recognizing October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer among women in the United States and is the second leading cause of cancer deaths among women in North Carolina and our nation. Whereas breast cancer death rates have slowly decreased over time for an overall decline of 44% since 1989. This is in part due to better screening and early detection efforts, increased awareness, and continually improving treatment options. Whereas early detection can be an effective tool in combating breast cancer with regular screenings, preventing 15 to 30% of all deaths from breast cancer in women over 40. When diagnosed while still confined to the breast, the 5-year relative survival rate is 99%. Whereas, on average, every 2 minutes, a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States. Whereas 1 in 8 women, or approximately 13% of the female population in the United States, will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime, and although rare, men get breast cancer too. Whereas in the U.S., an estimated 316,950 new cases of invasive breast cancer are expected to be diagnosed in women, and an estimated 2,800 new cases are expected to be diagnosed in men in 2025. Whereas in 2025, an estimated 42,170 women and 530 men will die from breast cancer in the U.S. Whereas the city of Brevard encourages citizens to talk with their healthcare providers about regular screenings, examinations, and mammograms, and to practice self-examination. Now therefore, I, Mayor Maureen Koploff, and Brevard City Council do hereby proclaim October 2025 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Brevard, and call on all citizens to join us in recognizing and commend this observance to all citizens. And it is just so important that everybody gets screened, that people take advantage of the medical, the mammograms. I've seen the mammogram bus around. You know, we have different facilities that are available to people, but people have to understand how important it is to get diagnosed early, because there is that 99% survival rate. And in honor of Breast Cancer Month, that is why we are all in pink, or some of us are in pink. Some of us are in more pink than others. But we're all wearing pink, and staff is wearing pink ribbon. So that is just to help raise the awareness of how important this is. So, thank you. All right. We are now going to move to public comments. Excellent. All right. The public is invited to speak during public comment at this time on any topic unless it is a public hearing item on this agenda. Anyone who wants to speak must register with the city clerk, which is the sign-up sheet. When it is your turn, step to the podium in front of City Council, state your name and address clearly, limit comments to 3 minutes or less, and avoid repetition. I will give you a warning when you have 30 seconds, member or to staff. Okay? And we have no public hearings today, so there's no topics for something else. Our first speaker is Mr. Rodney Locks.
Good evening, Council. My name is Rodney Locks. I live at 187 South Rice Street. And I want to tell you, I went to the traffic calming workshop that you had. It was really good. The staff did a great job. They had lots of presentations. They even had data. And I thought that was fine. And I can't mention his name, but he predicted that more people would be asking for traffic calming. Because you just said that, don't address anything to council. But anyway, but there is still one problem left in the community, and that's the culvert. You have not updated the community on when you're gonna fix the culvert. The sign is still there, summer is gone, you have barriers around the hole, and there's a grate over top of it, and my issue is, kids don't know that whether or not that's the fix. It's near the playground, and they're gonna go look. So the longer you leave it the way it is, the more dangerous it becomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laux. Our next speaker is Carol Stone.
Tiptoe. My name is Carol Stone. I live on South Caldwell Street, and I wanted to make some comments about downtown and tourism and the downtown master plan. For about 10 years now, I've been a Airbnb host, and people, I ask them why they're coming to Brevard, and they tell me they're coming to bike, hike. They have a student at Brevard College, they have kids at camp, or they're coming to the music center. No one has ever told me that they're coming to downtown Brevard. So I look at downtown Brevard and our beautiful city as a bonus for what these people come to town for. And the beauty of downtown is that our shop owners and our restaurateurs are making it a welcoming place. The downtown master plan was created as to make an attractive, engaging pedestrian experience with beautification plans to plant and landscape the bump outs that took over the parking places, and to also connect from neighborhoods to downtown. Recently, I've been doing a lot of walking downtown from my house and around the neighborhoods and to the farmer's market. And I have to say that beautiful downtown Brevard is not so beautiful anymore. It's looking pretty filthy and unkempt. The landscaping bump outs in the mulch is disarrayed. There's not a lot of mulch in all the places. The bump outs have weeds in them. They're overgrown. The plants haven't been cut back. The bushes have not been manicured. The concrete is cracking and dirty in front of a lot of storefronts and mostly downtown. The bricks are loose. There's weeds growing up through the sidewalk. And this isn't just downtown, it's on the other streets in downtown, like Jordan Street. I guess if you pick any street, the weeds are coming up through that. There's a lot of weeds in downtown. The stones around the trees, there's some that are still there, some that look like they've been moved from 10 years ago. They haven't been kept up. Take a drive down Brevard Street and go to the music center and look at the street. The curbs, they're overgrown with weeds. The gutters have weeds growing up in them. In some cases, you can't even see the street or the curbs on the street. If you drive into Brevard from any direction, you'll notice the same thing. All the roads and the curbs and the gutters don't look like they're maintained. I noticed that there's been a lot of council approval for different fundings. One of them that I thought was particularly interesting was the
30 seconds.
the $2,000 to add the bear to point to the forest. And that adds another thing that Brevard City Council has agreed to maintain. And we're not keeping up with what we have already agreed to maintain. So I'd ask if there's a problem with staffing issues or why downtown isn't being kept up, to maybe please think about contracting it out and finding some money to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. All right, our next speaker is Roy Ray Robinson.
Greetings, council. Greetings. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm Roy Ray Robinson. I was born here, and I have owned property at the end of Pinnacle Road since 2003. Just so you know, Pinnacle Road was also known as Mackey Ridge Road. The land was settled by Jake and Sarah Mackey, who were my great-great-grandparents back in 1892. I'm an actual descendant who is directly affected by the action that you took in 2008 and 2011 when you condemned the right-of-way and built the Bracken Trail. We were told you were planning to construct and improve the road for all pedestrians, vehicle travel, not to block access to our property. I was also told you intended to block access. I don't currently live here, but I'm here tonight to appeal to you as our elected officials to take accountability for the actions of previous council and give us back our right of access. Our property was known as the community of Pinnacle. Pinnacle was a thriving community for blacks and Native Americans, known as Safe Haven. Pinnacle land to the west was served by Mackey Ridge Road since the early 1900s. I personally drove up the road in my cousin's Mustang with my mom to the old house and trailer in 2003. Taking away the right of access from our properties to the road has prevented us from investing, developing, and utilizing our property. Yet, I have been paying taxes on the full right of access faithfully since 2003. The blocking of the access effectively makes our property worthless. In addition, the amount of money that you have gave my family for the placing the right-of-way was in no way fair, just compensation for blocking access. As a person of color, by denying my right of access, you are violating my constitutional rights as an American citizen, a taxpayer in the county, and as a property owner in the city of Brevard. To own, possess, and peacefully enjoy land that is accessible and is in and has been since 1892. I implore you to take counsel among yourselves and consider your solemn oath of office and do the right thing. Direct the planning department to seek and find a solution that relocates the road to align with the roadbed, allow us to of the road for all vehicular and pedestrian travel, restore historical access to our property. In closing, it is my request,
30 seconds.
it is my plea for you, our elected council, with authority to fix this. Take one moment and consider what you did and how it affects us. Stop and think about how doing nothing looks to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. All right, that is all of public comment. All right. All right, our next item on the agenda is a special presentation on the one-year update after Hurricane Helene. And our city manager is going to open the presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Indeed, I have some opening remarks, and then I'll ask friends and colleagues to come and talk about the particular topics. Over the past few weeks, there have been a number of events commemorating the one-year anniversary of Helene. 2 weeks ago, the county commissioners read a proclamation recognizing all who were involved in the response. And I just want to say again how grateful I am to our partners at the county for leading us through both the response last year and most of the heavy lifting with regard to recovery since then. Also, 2 weeks ago, a confederation of nonprofits, some of whom are represented here, held a remembrance and healing event at the Music Center that was very meaningful and well done, so thank you to you all for putting that on. And on top of that, I've been making my way around to the various work sites within the city and sharing my gratitude with our employees and handing out these challenge coins so folks can have a memento of their participation in the city's recovery and response efforts. And then, of course, there have been lots of reflections on social media and the newspaper that, if you haven't read, I encourage you to. They're very moving. So thanks to all those groups and all they've done over the last week to help remind us of Helene and our community coming together a year ago. But our presentation tonight is going to have to be more businesslike, I'm afraid. We'll focus today on 4 things. First, who's picking up the baton on community recovery? And Kara, I'll ask you to make your way to the podium up here. We've got your presentation pulled up. After she finishes talking about that topic, I'll ask David to stand up and talk about the status of the city's FEMA public assistance requests. After that, Aaron and Paul, I'll ask to talk about the special floodplain and zoning changes that we made last year and how those are coming along. And finally, I'll ask Chief Elmore to stand up and talk about challenges to his department that have grown since the storm. So Kara, if you would please share with us the story of Forward Transylvania and how that group came about and what its purpose is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Council, Mayor, and Wilson and staff for having me here today, and for mentioning the event we had last Saturday that Spark Point and our long-term recovery group put on. More than 700 people attended, and we thought it was a wonderful way to bring people together on the anniversary to commemorate, to heal, to share stories. And one of the pieces that was so powerful leading up to the event was collecting stories throughout the community. So many city employees, county employees, first responders, survivors, community members, nonprofits shared their stories, their memories, the traumas, but also how they came together, how neighbors stepped up, how people felt supported. And that was something we heard throughout, the common sense, the shared value of showing up for your neighbor. And I think one piece that really, really resonated was how many people said that they didn't feel alone, that they really felt that they lived in a community where people cared about each other. So I wanted to just start with one of those stories that we collected, which was actually someone who had moved here recently and didn't have a network, and thought that that was a really powerful story because it was someone who was new, didn't know who to call on, and just shows how people showed up.
And like 2 or 3 days after the storm, it felt like through the trees, our neighbors came with a group of firemen from just across the border in South Carolina. And they came with chainsaws and they helped.
Take your time.
It's just incredibly impactful.
What was it like when you saw them coming?
Oh my gosh, it felt like a dream. It felt like a dream. It was incredible that people we didn't know wanted us to feel safe and wanted us to feel like a part of their community. You know, coming to give us hugs and clear land, but also just bring hope. And like, you know, they were able to get in through South Carolina, and they're like, you can leave, there's ways out now. And like, now that we had cleared this area that we could physically get our cars out and things like that, it's incredible to see the power of, you know, what people can do, what our community can do. And our neighbors also have a place in downtown, and they still have water and power, and they're like, come over, come take a shower. It's like the humanity of that was so incredible. And so to be new here and yet also feel so loved was just beyond anything we could ask for.
I'm so glad you have.
So that story is just one example of people feeling supported in the aftermath of the storm. And during the event, during the tribute portion, we shared about a half an hour video that will be released by Spark Point in the next week or so that shares more of these stories, which we think is so important in reminding of the social cohesion that can happen after an emergency, but that something that we want to keep going in the community, not just when there's a natural disaster. So looking at the storm's total impact from data from Land of Sky and the Asheville Area Chamber of Commerce, nearly 3,000 households in Transylvania County reported damage. More than $9 million in total FEMA individual and household program assistance was approved. More than 1,400 roads were closed in the immediate aftermath, and 45 road closures are still active today. 90% of businesses surveyed in Western North Carolina reported revenue loss after Hurricane Helene, and over 30% said their revenue dropped by 51% or more. So as we know, it clearly impacted individual homeowners and businesses. And from our conversations with FEMA and state partners, the recovery process will be at least a decade. So what is a long-term recovery group? So we came together in December of last year after the emergency response, which was convened right here in this room to figure out how we were going to solve the immediate crisis of families who had been displaced for their homes or whose homes were substantially damaged. So that represented the city, the county, builders, nonprofits, donors, figuring out how you're going to get people into safe space as soon as possible. And that really happened quickly. It was very inspiring to see. And then the long-term recovery group came together, set the table for the long-term process. So it's a national model that is FEMA recognized, we've worked with NC VOAD, so partners that came in from the outside to help give us best practices to figure out who needed to sit at the table, and make sure that we were including all voices from the community. So since then, we established an executive committee. We had open community meetings, so inviting people, putting it in the paper, letting people from across the county know that we were forming this group. We had several meetings at the library, and invited people to step onto committees. We elected an executive committee, approved bylaws, and did all of the kind of standard things to start a new nonprofit. We filed for 501c3 status. The Health Foundation is serving as the fiscal sponsor, so we can reach for funding to help in recovery. And we've developed really great relationships with key regional and state level partners so that we can also understand what other groups are doing and what resources are available. So we're in the process, very close to receiving startup funding from the American Red Cross, Dogwood Health Trust, and we've had some smaller grants coming through that have allowed us to get some capacity for staffing and for getting a website and information out to survivors. And then, of course, we had the 1 year of healing event, working with Spark Point as the lead and our social, spiritual, and emotional needs committee. So our mission is to provide coordinated recovery support to residents after a disaster, prepare for future events, and build community resilience. And we hope to have a community where disaster recovery leads to renewed strength, deeper connection, lasting resilience. And by investing in relationships, local leadership, and inclusive strategies, we aim to transform the social cohesion that often arises after a crisis into a permanent part of our county's story. And we really are a community-led coalition supporting disaster recovery, preparedness, and resilience. I recently stepped into the executive director role, and our executive committee represents all facets of the community. So we have government, the city sits there, the county sits there. We have regular monthly meetings. We have quarterly meetings with all of our committees to coordinate efforts and ensure that our decisions are transparent. So here's just some of our leaders. Sarah over here, who's executive director of Spark Point, serves as our chair. Meg Lebeck with Housing Assistance Corporation's our vice chair. Josh Nelson, who's a CPA in town, is the treasurer. Tamika Hunter from the chamber is our secretary. And we have 8 active committees that look at business and economy, communications, construction and volunteers, finance and legal, fundraising, spiritual and emotional needs, and unmet needs, and disaster case management. And all of those committees meet regularly to coordinate their efforts. We also have quite a few core partners, so locally, most of those folks sit at the table on the executive committee. You'll recognize a lot of those organizations, El Centro, Housing Assistance, Pisgah Legal Services, that provide really key resources to the community and that have stepped up so much in their response. So a lot of these small nonprofits were already pretty burdened and stretched, and they've taken on so much more work. And so part of the work of the long-term recovery group is help to build their capacity as they're doing this. And we're also working with national and regional partners because as disasters have happened across the country, there's resources. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to make it appropriate for Transylvania County and the residents here. So we do disaster case management, volunteer and construction coordination, community engagement and healing, economic recovery and small business support, fundraising and grant strategy, and preparedness and planning. So far we actually have more than 40 partner organizations providing services and support, 8 active committees with more than 80 volunteers coordinating care. And we, as part of our storytelling for the Helene event, we collected more than 125 stories from survivors and community members. And we're planning to keep that going because what we found was it was really good to build bridges, to build empathy, and we want to continue down that path. So some of our urgent needs that we're hearing during the storytelling, it wasn't just collecting stories, we were collecting data through a process called participatory narrative inquiry. So we were able to capture unmet needs from anyone who was willing to share those with us. And the top needs were road repair and debris removal, stable, affordable housing. A lot of folks are still not back in their homes. Mental health and trauma support, clear communications channels. When something happens, who do we go to? What if communication's knocked out? And legal and financial assistance. So what we're now trying to do is hire disaster case managers who can coordinate with all the nonprofits who are working with survivor households, figure out what they need. And then also what you usually find after disaster, we've learned, is there's the first round of people who come asking for support, and then there's a lot of people that don't reach for support, either because they think they can do it themselves, they're afraid to ask for help, whatever reason that might be. And so we don't want to just wait for them to come to us. We will also want to go find them and tell them what resources are available. So we're working on building that capacity, and also hosting workshops so that people know what resources they can get intake, but they can also learn preparedness skills. So obviously the event, and that's what Forward Transylvania does.
Thank you, Kara. I asked David to come to the microphone, and as he's coming, I want to share with council that he's got a personal commitment he needs to leave for after his presentation. So if there are any questions, I'll do my best, but we might need to follow up with those answers.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm going to give you a little presentation on our public assistance from FEMA. So, a year ago, we were picking up the pieces and trying to figure out where we are, and we reached out to FEMA for assistance. And FEMA does have a very sophisticated public assistance program, and for that program, the city filed, in essence, 10 different claims. And they were really a few more than that, and it's a little more complicated, but in general, we filed 10 different claims. We have requested that FEMA assist us with roughly $2.5 million, made up of the 10 projects that you see here, debris removal at 100%, debris removal at 90%. That has to do with how quickly we were able to handle and deal with the debris removal. So if we were able to do it quickly, we were able to receive 100% reimbursement. If we were slower in getting it all out, we've got 90% reimbursement. We asked them for help with several sinkholes, but in going through the process, several of them were so minor, we decided to drop them off of our FEMA request and really focused on one major sinkhole that was really more of a tree coming up and a sinkhole and a bank erosion kind of all rolled into one over near Hospital Drive. And then we also sought reimbursement for basically our labor hours for our police and fire department. And all of these items above this and below this, we have also sought reimbursement for our staff's time. So that's kind of rolled into these numbers that you'll see here in a minute as well. Our wastewater treatment plant, we had some influx of river water and a lot of sand and grit into some of our equipment, in particular our RBCs. They had to be cleaned out, and we had some valve actuators that got damaged. The Hillview Road culvert, as you are well aware of, that process was initially filed as 2 claims. One was a claim for the engineering for the project, and the second claim was for the repair and replacement of the project. We have since rolled those together into one project. And then we sought a little bit of funding for some bank damage near the bridge on Cathy's Creek Road that crosses over into our water department. And then we had 3 projects that were withdrawn. We had damage to our police vehicles and a fire bay door, and those items were largely covered by insurance. So the picture you see on here was our police car that was damaged during the storm. But insurance, again, covered the bulk of that. And the way the FEMA assistance works is you have to show that you've gone through any other means you might have for reimbursement before they will provide you with any reimbursement. So some of those insurance claims are fairly easy. A damaged vehicle is pretty straightforward. But the influx of grit in our RBCs at the wastewater treatment plant is a much more difficult insurance claim. And they begin to look at things like, where does that sit in relation to the floodplain? What measures have you done to prevent that kind of damage? It gets much more complicated. Our water treatment plant had some influx of grit and sand, very similar to what we had at the wastewater treatment plant. But in this particular case, the wastewater treatment plant debris removal was moved into the category 1 or 2 that you see above. And then the last item is what I previously mentioned, the Hillview Culvert A&E. So in essence, we had 6 projects that we're seeking funding for. Now this process, it's complicated. That's the only way to say it. It's complicated, it's tough, it takes a lot of teamwork. And very frankly, we've struggled a little bit with FEMA. In recent months, FEMA replaced our project manager. And since that time, we've seen a great improvement in our communication and assistance from FEMA, and things have begun to move forward in a much smoother manner. But this little flow chart that we call the snake gives you some idea of the complexity of the FEMA process. So I know you can't read this, but there are 28 steps in the FEMA process. Where the red block is on this particular snake is what we call obligation. So once you make it to the red block, FEMA has agreed that they are going to give the money to the state of North Carolina. At which point in time, the state of North Carolina looks at the value of that claim. If it's over $100,000, it goes through some initial approval responses. If it's below $100,000, it's a little easier to get it, but all of it goes back to the federal government for one more review before it comes back to us to hopefully get funding released. So as you can see, it's tricky. So let me just run through our projects fairly quickly. If you've got questions, I'm glad to answer them. Feel free to ask them along the way. Our debris removal project, the 100%, we are claiming $323,000. That's the largest chunk of the debris removal money that we're talking about. So thankfully, the portions of our debris removal that made it into the 90% category are much lower in dollar value. And what you see in this case is this money is at the obligated stage, but we're waiting approval. We're waiting final award. So this one has made it through the snake. Now, one of the things that's a little tricky, sometimes you make it through the snake, and somebody compared it earlier to the little kids' game Chutes and Ladders. Sometimes you go back to the beginning and you start over, and you don't always know that until it happens. So on several of these, we've been through the snake and back many times. But in this case, I feel hopeful that we are in the obligation stage and we'll get awarded our money, which would be very nice to see. The 90% debris removal is in what they call phase 2, but it's in the very early steps of what's happening. Now, this is one that had made it a lot further and got kicked back. So hopefully it moves through the snake quicker, or the flow chart, the second time. But in essence, if you kind of look at these colors in the chart here, what you can see is the white is phase 1, the light blue is phase 2, the next shade of blue is phase 3, and the darker blue is kind of phase 4, and then a phase 5. And we're in phase 2. So out of the 5, and really 3 is where you get obligated. So it's moving pretty good. I'm sorry, 4 is where you get obligated. It's moving pretty good, and hopefully we'll get there quickly. That claim is for $66,000. So you can see in comparison to the 100% claim of $323,000, it's not nearly as much money. The next item is the sinkhole that I referred to, which is down kind of near Hospital Drive. We had a tree get uprooted. When the tree was uprooted, it pulled a sewer line out of the ground with it, and it was right on the edge of a creek bank, so it caused a lot of creek erosion. It was basically putting some dirt back in the ground, repairing the sewer line, and then covering the bank with some riprap. Again, you can see in this particular case that that project is obligation. So we are very hopeful that this is going to make it through the rest of the way. The next item is the emergency protective measures, which again is basically reimbursement for our fire and police labor hours for their response times. This also includes They reimburse us for usage of equipment like a police car or a fire truck. All of those things have a dollar value, and every hour of use, including generators around town, all of those things are reimbursed, and they are eligible for reimbursement. They have some charts and things that they follow through to help determine where that money is going to be. So again, you can see here that $229,000, almost $230,000 of our labor for police and fire response is again at the obligation state. So we've really made a huge amount of progress in the last couple of months with this new project manager that we've had. But again, we're not quite over the border. We got to get just a little bit further. Our wastewater treatment plant, roughly $117,000. You can see it's at phase 2. So it's moving along pretty good. The biggest stall on this particular project is the insurance claim. So we were a little late to the game on the insurance claim, and we're working through that actively right now with our insurer and FEMA. It's a little bit of a back and forth process, but hopefully we've answered all their questions. The insurer asked a lot of questions. FEMA asked a tremendous amount of detailed questions, and we just try to keep jumping through whatever hoop they put in front of us to try to get stuff resolved. I'm hopeful that this will move forward, but this may end up resulting in a portion of an insurance claim and maybe a portion of a FEMA reimbursement. I'm not real confident that this will just fall entirely on FEMA's lap at this point. The next item is the Hillview Road culvert. It's at phase 2. This project has been extremely challenging. It's been very difficult. The project was identified initially as a sinkhole. Our Public Works Director, Wesley Shook, noticed a sinkhole. His folks went out to protect the sinkhole. Over time, we noticed the sinkhole getting bigger very quickly, very shortly after the storm. And trying to investigate what was going on further, what we realized is at the bottom of this large 60-inch culvert, which you can see a sewer and water line crossing through the middle of. That's what this picture is showing you here. So it's a very complex installation and culvert to deal with. The bottom of this culvert had eroded away completely. So you can kind of see some different colors and watermark lines in the bottom of this culvert. Over time, this culvert had basically developed what's called a natural bottom. So a lot of sand and grit and sediment had settled in the bottom, but the strength of the storm washed all of that out, and in the process ripped and tore away at the bottom of the culvert, which was already an older culvert. So I think we were guessing this culvert is around 75 years old. So some of the damage was, probably due to age. So FEMA asked for things like, well, what are your maintenance records? How often have you gone in and taken care of your culvert? Well, those are the kind of things we don't really do, but we do clean the culvert out. We keep it open and free of debris. But some of the things that they're looking for are very difficult to find. So we have Land to Sky has been helping us with our FEMA claim, and I'm very thankful for their assistance. They have done a tremendous amount of work in our favor to help us get this moved through FEMA. Land to Sky is kind of in the same place we are, that we are not hopeful that FEMA is going to fund everything that we're looking for on this culvert. And in particular, right now, FEMA has asked us for a cost estimate for this work from a licensed professional engineer. We provided them with that. It's roughly $1.5 million from our engineer. But FEMA has redone that estimate and has come back and said they think it's only $850,000. This was after they originally said it was about $130,000. So we've been back and forth with FEMA many times and are still kind of arguing the dollar value of the culvert. So this one is a very tough and challenging one. But again, back to Land to Sky. Land to Sky, looking at this and realizing it, has been seeking out some other grant opportunities. And they have identified a grant opportunity that would be applicable here. But before that grant will pay, you have to be denied some other form of public assistance. So if FEMA does turn us down, it actually makes us a better candidate for this other grant money. So we are going to continue to pursue this through FEMA. If we're unsuccessful, we're going to pursue the grant. If all else fails, we have some repair options that are not ideal versus replacement that we could fall back on as well. In my numbers that I reference, I believe I've carried the 1.5 million you'll see here at the end. Well, I actually have both numbers. Cathy's Creek Bridge Embankment Project. I am happy to say we have deposited a check in the bank for $23,324.63. Our first and only FEMA reimbursement to date. But we have gotten some money through FEMA, through a lot of work and a lot of effort. Now, we've not done the work yet, so it's kind of odd that they call it a reimbursement. But Dennis Richardson, our water plant ORC, is working through with contractors right now. We got to get one more quote, and then we're going to release this work to take place. So, in summary, we in essence filed 10 claims. We withdrew 3 of them. 6 of them are in process, and 1 claim has been funded. Out of that, we have in essence requested from FEMA roughly $2.5 million. FEMA at this point is kind of saying, best case, if we give you everything we think you should have, we're going to give you $1.8 million. Hopefully, we're going to keep working that number and can get that closer to our $2.5 million. That difference is solely based on the Hillview Street culvert. The rest of the items they have agreed on our funding amounts. And then last but not least is the $23,000 that we've received to date. So that's kind of my summary. I'm glad to answer any questions that I can about the FEMA process and the public assistance process.
Council, do we have any questions? Mr. Baker, any questions?
Yeah, a couple questions. On the Hillview Mills Ave culvert, you mentioned the Land of Sky grant that only works, or we're only eligible for if we are denied other public assistance. I think I know the answer to this, but what if we are approved but just underfunded for a project? I assume that grant would not apply in that case.
Honestly, I'm not sure. I think we've got to do some more research. I think we would continue to pursue it and see if they would help us out. But I don't have a good answer on that right now.
And then somewhat related, I think it's good that we can show the snake, as you say. That's the funny metaphor, or not so funny, I guess, if you're trying to get through it. But is there a part of that, and I understand that this comes with risk, but is there a part in that process where we would feel comfortable expending money with the understanding that we were going to be reimbursed?
Well, a large part of this, we have spent the money and are seeking reimbursement. So all of the wastewater treatment plant repairs, all of the water treatment plant debris removal repairs were all money spent in-house. The fire, police hours were all money spent in-house. So it is, they are good about reimbursing us for it. My concern is I would like to know at least what level of reimbursement we could expect before we started on a project. I wouldn't want to commit the city, of course, without council's authorization.
Right.
But I wouldn't want to commit the city for, $1.5 million of work, and we're unsure if FEMA's going to provide us anything. So that's where it gets tricky. And part of the reason that this has taken so long, because we have been, literally, the Hillview Culvert has been through this process kind of round and round. I thought we were really close at one point, and we literally started over. We had the 2 projects. They had told us we could get money up front for our engineering, and then all of that, when our project manager changed, apparently that approach, we were advised to change that approach, which we did, but that started the process over. But I think we'd need that clarity, I believe, before we move forward, and we don't have that yet.
Okay. But I have one other question, but before we move on just from the Hillview culvert, I do think that, and I know I was the one that asked for the signs to be put up there, and I do think that now that we have signs, we do need to keep them updated. So I realize we're in a little bit of limbo, but clearly we're not going to start construction in the summer that we just completed. So I think if there's an update that we can give both through our other communication, but also in person there, I think that would be important.
So, yes, sir, and we will do that. We've have talked through that some. One other possibility that we're looking at that has just kind of recently come to light because of some other needs, we are considering if it is possible to create a localized detour around the section of road that has collapsed. It might open that sooner. But we can definitely, and I apologize that we've not done that already. We have talked about it, but we will get something out there that gives folks a better idea. At best case, if we continue forward, we would get all of our funding where the current schedule provided, and we show this in the Public Works Committee, the best case scenario would be March or April to have the culvert work replaced. So it will be down for, an extended period of time still. But hopefully we can do something that maybe in I say immediate, within a month, maybe there's a possibility to do something with a detour, but we can still get signage in our website updated well in advance of that.
Councilmember Wright, I want to go back to your previous question. Yes, there will be a point where I will come and ask y'all whether you want to risk spending local money without the promise of reimbursement to fix that culvert. But we're not there yet, and here's why. Because if we spend that money, we will be cash poor. We've spent a lot of money this last year on our loans to Fairhaven Meadows to buy the property on Azalea Avenue and do some other things. And so there is not a lot of surplus cash to use to fix this project. And so it would need to be quite a more significant hazard and inconvenience for the residents of this town before I was ready to come to you and suggest that we spend our remaining cash fixing that.
Yeah, I think, my main concern at this point is really just the communication part of it and the symbolic part of it, because I have to be at these meetings twice a month. I happen to like being here too, but a lot of people are not at these meetings, and I have a lot of confidence in the staff that you guys are doing the best that you can do. But I think when a neighborhood sees something torn up for that long, there's a lot of questions, and sometimes people don't have the time or the means to find out the answer, and I think it's up to us to actually give them that answer in a very direct way and let them know, like, here's where we are, or here's our best case scenario for when we think we're going to have this open. And if there's a way that we can create a detour safely, I think that that would also go a long way towards showing people that, hey, we realize this is a problem and we're working on it. So moving on from that, just quickly, so on the project, the FEMA project manager, do you know if we share the same FEMA project manager as the county?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think we do. I've not heard her reference the county.
Okay.
But I know she's working with some other local organizations. I believe we share the same project manager, for example, with UNC Asheville, but I'm not sure that we did at one point in time.
Okay. Just curious if there's any, potential for, banding together to find our way through this a little bit easier. I don't know, but, okay. Those are all my questions.
Mr. Daniel?
Sorry.
That red dot, you said that was obligated, what was that term you used?
Yes, sir. So obligated means, it depends. In this particular case, that job is paid. Obligated state means that FEMA has released it or is close to releasing it to North Carolina Emergency Management. But we've filled out all the forms, we've given them all the information they've needed, and they are ready to approve it for obligation or release it to North Carolina Emergency Management.
But it is my understanding, though, that even though it's called obligated, in the process that's currently in place, that doesn't mean a whole lot.
I would second that.
I just want to make that clear.
Mr. Morrow?
Good report. I know Councilman Wise and I get a chance to hear this much more in the Public Works Safety Center.
Ms. Holder?
Well, thank you. My question is, First of all, where does Hillview fall as far as a priority? The hazard is risky enough that the road is closed. And so I see the potential of danger because of the closing of the road. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I wouldn't want to run a heavy vehicle down the road. I think it's okay to walk on. The most immediate concern where there's the sinkhole. And the sinkhole is covered with grading, and we have very heavy water-filled barricades on top of that to seal that area off. So I don't believe there's an immediate danger to a pedestrian, and vehicles can't get through that area. But it does need to be repaired or fixed in some fashion before we could drive over top of it, which is kind of the detour we're talking about, is trying to decide how best to accomplish that.
So where does that fall as far as a priority compared to the other projects that we're looking at?
Honestly, I'm trying to treat them all as the same level of priority, trying to keep all these moving simultaneously as best we can. That particular project being our largest project gets by far the most attention of any of our projects we're doing. We are committed to an engineering firm for $119,000 to help us through that process. There are several things that FEMA has asked for that we need from our engineering firm. They've accomplished some of those. Others of those items they're working on, but it stays high on priority.
Okay.
It's got the biggest impact, and honestly, I worry about it affects our response times of fire and EMS, and I stress that to FEMA and every call we have with them that, this has a much larger impact to our community than just, it's not just a culvert. It has a bigger impact.
Yeah. You mentioned something about repair options. Is that something that could be done maybe as a phase to begin repair until we know and we hear from FEMA to do what we really want to do with it?
So yes, ma'am, it could be. The problem is the cost and the practicality of it. So the repair that is not ideal and would reduce the internal size of the culvert a little bit is somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 to $300,000, closer to the $300,000 side. All of that money would be torn out when the culvert was removed. It's a way of lining the culvert. So I don't think we would want to repair it and not replace it. The 2007 Stormwater Master Plan in particular identified that culvert as being undersized for a 100-year flood event. So if we were to just repair it, we don't do anything to solve the flooding and the overtopping of that culvert and road, which we've been lucky in the past. That could have been the overtopping when the culvert's full and it can no longer carry the water comes outside the culvert and over the road, it could wash the road away, which could then result in a much bigger problem if a similar issue were to happen again. So I do believe the right thing is we're not just replacing the culvert, we are also upsizing the culvert, which is some of our, I don't want to call it our argument, but some of our disagreement with FEMA is it's a change to that current situation. So that's some of our differences with FEMA. So it could be done, but it might not be the best use of the city's money. And FEMA would not reimburse us for both of those options. They would reimburse us for one or the other.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, how long is the life of a culvert on average?
That's a really good question. And very difficult to answer. Culverts are made out of concrete, galvanized metal, aluminum. Some of them are natural bottom culverts. Nowadays, a lot of culverts go back in as plastic. If this is replaced in the fashion we desire to do it with, it'll be what's called an open box culvert. So imagine the letter C kind of sticking in the ground, so the bottom will be a natural culvert with a three-sided structure around it. I would guess that that's at least a 100-year type of repair or structure. The galvanized pipe is probably considered, around a 50-year type of structure, and we think this one's 75, maybe a little older, so it's gone beyond its life expectancy right now, which again is one of FEMA's concerns and issues, is it is old.
So that's the argument to fund or not to fund, this maybe should have been repaired 25 years ago? Is that what the
Well,
assumption might be, or am I just overthinking?
if it had failed, maybe. It's a tough call. It's operational. It was very difficult. The amount of sediment sitting in the bottom of that culvert pre-storm, which regretfully I did not see. I have to kind of assume from what I can see that's there, would make inspections of it very difficult. It's not something we routinely do, is get around and inspect a lot of culverts. It may be something that we seeing what we experienced in Helene, may be something that we need to do, but it would be somewhat difficult to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Wise?
As Councilman Morrow said, we've been trying to suss out these issues for over a year. I've been on Public Works for about 2 years, and I'm constantly amazed at the amount of infrastructure a small town has and the maintenance cost that it takes. This storm really did expose our weaknesses and showed us how much work we have to do. I think it's fair to say that David and his team has worked tirelessly trying to figure these issues out. I can't remember how many times you've come to us and said we had gotten that close and we had to kick it all the way back, especially with the Mills Avenue. So I would ask of our public to try to understand that we take this very seriously. You guys know that. But some of this, as much as we push, we can only push so hard, and we're very aware of it. Please keep telling us that it's a concern so we can keep the fire lit to FEMA. But, I think we really are trying to find a solution to this issue.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, I'll ask Paul and Aaron to come.
Okay, so the planning department's main role in the wake of Helene was doing the substantial damage assessments required by FEMA and the NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program. So in the immediate aftermath, we were out in the field doing evaluations. That's a little snippet of the form we have to fill out, different characteristics and data for a bunch of different structures that were impacted by the storm. And you put it all into a piece of software that FEMA produces called the SDE tool, and it spits out a damage percentage. And so anything over 50% is considered substantially damaged, and that's what is a key trigger point in the NFIP. So after our initial evaluations, we had 49 residential and 2 non-residential structures that met that substantial damage threshold. We sent out letters to those folks, and several of them were able to remove themselves from the substantial damage list. They could prove their home was worth more than the estimate, or that the repairs cost less, or both. In some cases, structures were already compliant with the floodplain regulations, so there was nothing to hold them to because they were already elevated. But in the end, those different structures were removed, and so the total number that we reported to FEMA after the storm was 35 substantially damaged residential structures and 1 non-residential. So since that time, we've been working with the owners of those structures to get them on a path towards compliance as required by the program. 24 of those structures are currently in progress of coming into compliance. 8 of them are single-family homes, 19 are mobile homes, and 16 are mobile homes, and 19 are doing the temporary repair authorizations that we came up with. Remember, we had lots of discussions about that, and all of those 19 have been extended for a second year, which means they're showing progress and becoming fully compliant. And the kind of things that program was designed to allow to happen is basic repairs to get folks back in their homes. So this electrical box, this meter was almost fully submerged, things like that, get their electricity back on, get their insulation replaced, flooring replaced, and things like that. 7 structures have been demolished. As far as FEMA is concerned, that's compliance. We no longer have a non-compliant structure in the floodplain, which is good. 4 of those have been replaced with new homes, fully compliant homes. So that's very good. Those folks are now out of the floodplain and in much safer place than they were before. As we approach the one-year anniversary, we identified 15 of these substantially damaged structures that we had not heard from in quite some time or had not ever established communications with the owners. So me and Paul went out and visited those structures in the field in September. We had found that one was demolished and gone, verified that 6 of them are unoccupied. And then we posted these notices on any of the ones we weren't able to actually talk to somebody at the structure and to let them know they needed to call us. We had done this before, but this was just sort of a second round to get people back into understanding what it means to be substantially damaged and what they need to do to move forward. So after posting those notices, we had several people call us, and we've made contact with 7 of those 15 property owners, which is good. It was a good thing to do and got us back in touch with some folks who we hadn't heard from and in some cases hadn't talked to at all. So that was a lot of numbers, but really the key takeaways to remember is we had 36 substantially damaged structures. 7 have already come into compliance via demolition. We have 24 in progress, 19 of which are using that temporary authorization program, so that means they're back in their home. And most of those folks are working closely with nonprofits such as Habitat or Housing Assistance. And that leaves 5 that are up in the air still, that we're still trying to communicate with the homeowners and get a good plan in action. But these numbers are changing fairly constantly. I actually think they might not be accurate since I typed them last week, especially after our latest notices. People are calling and getting on track with Catherine, and that's a good thing, although it does take some time because these are complicated projects. But remember, the ultimate goal here is to get people out of harm's way, people and property out of the floodplain one way or the other, whether it's vertically or moving the house or something of that nature. In the wake of the storm, when folks were getting these notices and not quite sure what it meant, we held an information session on November 21st at the Music Center. We co-hosted this with the County Building Department, Habitat, and the Home Builders Association. And it was just intended for the folks who were in those flood hazard areas and had been damaged, who were having trouble making sense of the process. You might remember this flow chart. We handed out a lot of these at the time. And so we just help talk through people, their individual situations to get them on a path forward. And I think it went really well. We were able to get a lot of information out to a lot of people in one setting, which I think was very helpful. And that's something we would probably do again quicker next time if we have to. Another thing we did to kind of make ourselves a little bit more resilient as a community is we made some changes to the UDO. You might remember these. We made several amendments to create an emergency response and recovery section of the code. That is Chapter 21. And that sets the framework for different temporary uses in the wake of a declared disaster. That's things like temporary housing, shelters, personal services like laundry facilities, shower facilities, medical, governmental offices, and things like that. That's a site plan from someone who took advantage of that and set up some RVs out on Woodland Terrace to provide housing for folks. We also amended the fee schedule, made it clear there's no fees to rebuild, reconstruct, rehab, move, demolish your house if it's been impacted by one of these declared disasters, and also gave us the ability to waive tap fees and system development fees if you're setting up temporary housing. One last thing I'll leave you with is just a little look into how we communicate this information to FEMA. We send them regular updates, and what we send them is this big, massive spreadsheet that's just like the top left corner of it. We send them, that's all the substantially damaged structures and all the different times we've communicated with them, different information, permit numbers, permit types, all the stuff we're doing to try to get these properties into compliance is detailed on that spreadsheet. We send that to them roughly monthly. It's a little less often now that we're a year out, but we're sending that to them very, very often early on. And then on August 20th, they came and visited us. Marcy Downs, the Floodplain Management and Insurance Task Force leader, came and reviewed our permits, our evaluation forms. We have a big Helene box with all this paperwork in it. We just sat that down on the table, and she thumbed through it and seeing how we were handling things. She did have some questions about that temporary repair program. She had never heard of that before, had never heard of a community doing that. She had not seen that publication that FEMA put out that we kind of based it on. So we talked to her about that, showed her that. But overall, she was very happy with how we're handling things. She says we have good record keeping, good procedures, and good permitting in place. And that, you know, sometimes she shows up for those site visits and no one can show her anything. We had everything very well organized by property and by different things like that. So that went well, and they're happy with the progress we're making as far as the substantially damaged structures go. And I think if we only have 5 kind of hanging chads at this point, that's honestly pretty good considering how many structures were impacted. So that's our response and what we've learned from this, and happy to answer any questions you have about that process.
Council, any questions? Mr. Wise, any questions?
I mean, only 5 that left. That's great for our community. I don't really have any questions. Those are sobering numbers for a lot of families in our community, but actually heartening that we've made that much progress.
Ms. Holder?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Mr. Morrow?
I'm not surprised she was impressed. But I do have one question. On Wilson Road, the 2 structures, the old store and the abandoned trailer next to it, obviously the trailer has been abandoned and there's nobody there. I don't know who you talked to. But it's still a mess. Is that, do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think any of the ones on our official list are on Wilson Road. They might be outside the regulated floodplain. We did have a lot of structures in the 500-year.
This is right on Old 64 and in the intersection of Old 64 and Wilson Road. Right in that inside corner is a store.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the guy's living in a camper.
Mm-hmm.
And right next to it's abandoned trailer, which is very unsightly and probably unsanitary and all that other stuff. But I would assume that's in our jurisdiction.
Yeah, if it's in the city limits, we can definitely,
Yeah, it's right across from the post office.
we'll look at it.
Yeah. Well, diagonally from the post office. In other words, it's on the opposite corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look into that,
Okay.
I think a lot of people would appreciate it.
Can do.
Thank you.
Mr. Daniel?
I don't have any questions, but I do appreciate the efforts that are being made to accommodate the folks that were so adversely affected by this storm. So thank you for your work.
Mr. Baker?
Yeah, I think it's obvious that the planning staff worked hard on all this and also was flexible and creative and brought, potential solutions to us for folks that really needed some help. So very happy with all that. I do have one question just on the 5 properties that we haven't been able to hear back from yet. What are the next steps for them along, the timeline that we're, the 3-year timeline?
Well, the 3-year timeline is just if you're doing the
Oh, right,
temporary
yeah,
authorization.
yeah,
So
but-
they evidently have not elected to do that. I know one of them was actually previously substantially damaged by Fred, and that property owner was difficult to get in touch with at the time. We finally did, and he said, I have no plans to do anything with that. I know it's probably a total loss. But the other ones, it's just we have to keep trying. Eventually, if we have no luck whatsoever, FEMA can step in and help us a little bit with the enforcement. But I don't think we're at that point yet.
But eventually it would rise to like a federal issue then.
Yeah, they could, essentially, that single property could be removed from the NFIP.
Yeah.
Sort of what it can come to.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Chief Elmore.
On short and sweet. The Brevard Fire Department, under normal operations, we consist of responding to incidents and mitigating just normal calls day to day. Hurricane Helene was an unprecedented major incident for the fire department. We handled it to the best of our ability, given the resources that we had. We answered 121 dispatch calls and over another 100 that we run through without the communication center having to come to us directly. What we learned from it is obviously manpower, extensive. Communications was one of our biggest things. We have communications by radio with communications, but we don't have communications with the city manager, council, public works. We couldn't communicate with them. So what we've looked at is looking at the Starlink, the satellite phones, possibly a repeater system for the city itself, that we can be self-sufficient, where we can talk to each other on a channel and everybody can work together, because when we need things, we need it then, and we didn't have that. We didn't have that communications. We had to have the city manager. He actually come to the station and where we had that communication. The other is a specialized watercraft. We actually had Lake Toxway give us a boat, planning ahead for that. We need our own. So we're working on some things to bring back to council to probably purchase a boat within the next year and a half. We're looking at some different grants and things like that to get that. And then our early warning EOC, setting the EOC up. That was not done. We need as a city to do our own and get everybody here in the room. We can monitor what's going on, and every stakeholder in the city is in this room, and we can make decisions as a group to better serve the citizens of Brevard. And normally on any disaster like that, you have that. The county has an EOC. They set it up, kinda. We need to do our own, set our own up and function ourselves, be self-sufficient within the city. And then last is the county has implemented Smart 911. If you've not heard of that, it's Smart 911. You register for it. You can put anything in about your family, anything about your residents, things like that. They update us when we go to the call and tell us all this information. So it helps us, because when we answer calls as a fire department, this is like the Helene thing, we go to calls all the time. We react to it. Every call is different, and we have to react to that call. Helene, like I said, we could be the most prepared department in the world, but you're still going to have to react to calls because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the slides, the flooding. We can tell you the areas that are going to flood, but not how bad it's going to flood, or slides and things like that. So it'll give us information like that as far as your house. And then the other he calls is the RAVE alert system. And this is where it feeds back and tells the community about weather conditions, traffic conditions, and any incidents. We'll use Becky Mountain, for example. Let the people know they can't come down Becky Mountain, so nobody comes down and runs in the hole. So at the end, ultimately, the fire department responded to all dispatched incidents that we had. We made it to everyone with no major issues and no injuries. And we rescued over 100 people with the rescue squad on Old 64. And so that's where we're at. As a whole, being a small department, I think we did a really, really good job with the resources we have. We've updated a lot of our equipment, our life vests and things like that through our regular budget. But the biggest thing is the EOC and possibly getting a watercraft.
Any questions for Bradley? Mac, any questions?
Just a comment, having seen your department in service in emergency for my wife, I get to tell you again how much I appreciate what you do and how fortunate we are in Brevard to have the Brevard Fire Department.
Ms. Holder, questions?
No questions. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mr. Wise?
Thank you so much for being there for our community, for all the guys in your department.
Mr. Daniel?
Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
I have a question, but I think it's a bigger, just on the communication piece, and Wilson, you may have, I'm just curious if there's more of a regional effort to talk about, the communication issues that we experienced after the storm, and, the redundancy of our cell towers and the resilience of that. I mean, I grew up in Florida. I've been through maybe 5 or 6 hurricanes, lost power for 3 weeks. I was used to all that. The communication thing was completely brand new for me, and I think for a lot of people. And I think a lot of that is just how we're so dependent on it now. And so I wonder if there's a regional effort, maybe through Land of Sky going on there, or any news on that.
Yes, there is such an effort going on. And as a matter of fact, they've spent the past year or so going around, well, first of all, standing up that effort, getting some grant funding to back it, and then going around and doing sort of listening sessions with all the affected communities to see precisely how the communication blackout affected them, and to learn a little bit more about the systems and so forth that are used by those communities. And so we met with them, I don't know, what was that, over the summer, Bradley, and shared our experiences with them. And I presume they're coming up with some sort of report about the diversity of systems within our region and how folks were impacted not having those. And we'll probably form some recommendations based on what they found during those interviews. But that one's ongoing. Mayor, you're involved with that since it's Land to Sky. You got anything else to add on that?
No, just at our last Land to Sky meeting, they are doing exactly that. They've finished all the data collection. They've identified really some of the critical nodes, trying to prioritize, where do they need different assets. And they are wrapping that. It is contracted, and that report is being put together. And then they're going to have to go out and look for funding because, of course, to basically put a more robust network in place regionally is going to be expensive. But Land of Sky has taken the lead on that, and I was very impressed when they came out and with how they brought all of the key responders together, and they've done that across the entire region that was impacted by Helene, not just the 4 counties that we have in Land of Sky. So yeah, it is aggressively, it's one of Land of Sky's, pretty high priority because it was so impactful to everybody. And they are the right organization to do that, to really be doing it regionally. So they stepped up, and it's moving forward, but it's going to take some serious funding. Not only, they also have all of the commercial providers, also involved. So they're evaluating a lot of different things in terms of redundancy and resilience of the overall communication system.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bradley.
And that concludes our presentation, Mayor.
Can I answer Mr. Morrow's question? We were able to look it up. That intersection is in the 500-year floodplain, so it's not in the regulated floodplain. We wouldn't look at it from a floodplain perspective, but we can look at it from a code enforcement perspective, so we can
Oh, good.
get on that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Action, right away. Okay. All right, well, thank you. And Mr. Manager, staff, and to Forward Transylvania, thank you for a wonderful, wonderful briefing. All right, we will move quickly on. We are on the consent and information agenda. The following items are on consent. 1, the property tax release, September of 2025. 2, award of the contract for Bracken Climbing Loop Trail. 3, personnel policy update. 4, amendment to the 2025 City Council meeting schedule, organizational meeting. 5, ordinance declaring road closures for Halloween Fest and Veterans Day. 6, capital project closeout, Main Street streetscapes. 7, resolution to approve debt financing for 3 capital vehicle purchases, First Citizens Bank. 8, award of a garbage truck bid. 9, Council Public Works and Utilities Committee minutes, August 6, 2025. 10, Council Housing Committee minutes, August 12, 2025. 11, Council Downtown Master Plan Committee minutes, August 13th, 25. 12, Council Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee minutes, August 20th of 25. 13, Council Rosenwald Community Advisory Board minutes, August 21st of 25. 14, Council Finance, Human Resources, and Citizen Appointment Committee minutes, August 25th of 25. 15, Council Public Works and Utilities Committee minutes, September 3rd of 25. 16, correspondence, the ABC Board minutes, August 28th of 25. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent is approved. We have no unfinished business. Moving on to new business. We have one item, that is Planning Board appointments. And who's doing that? Mr. Manager, is that you? Who's briefing that?
Denise, if you don't mind.
I will take it, yes.
Very good, Madam Clerk.
So the planning board currently has 2 vacancies, one for an unexpired term due to the resignation of James Carley. And that term, the unexpired term, runs through September of '26. And there is a vacancy for a full 3-year term due to Molly Jenkins' term expired on September 30th. So staff published notice requesting applications. 3 applications were received and reviewed by the Finance, Human Resources, and Citizen Appointment Committee at its September 22nd meeting, and they made the following recommendations. They recommended appointing Michael Hines to fill the vacancy left by James Carley's resignation until September of '26, and recommended the appointment of Gerald Yunker to serve a full 3-year term to fill the vacancy created by the expiration of Molly Jenkins' term. And in your packet is for your consideration, is a resolution appointing members as recommended by the Finance, Human Resources, and Citizen Appointment Committee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, do I have a motion to approve the resolution appointing members to the Brevard Planning Board?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we'll open it for discussion. Mr. Daniel?
Well, I'm on that committee that reviewed this, and all 3 of these candidates were quite impressive, I thought, and this is simply the decision that we made. Mr. Yunker had an outstanding, but time-wise, he had applied earlier, and which kind of moved him up. But I don't think we could have gone wrong with any of the appointments that were offered, or applicants that were offered.
Mr. Baker?
I have no questions.
Mr. Morrow?
Appreciative of the committee's work.
Ms. Holder?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Wise?
It's nice that we actually have a lot of applications we can look at for these committees. We're very lucky that our public wants to be involved, and we have to make some choices. I think also, just to add on to Gary's comment, is Mr. Brown is already serving on a number of other either city committees or other committees, and felt like the Mr. Hines and Mr. Yunker would love for them to get involved. So.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. That is the end of new business, and we are on final remarks. And we will start with Mr. Morrow.
Just a shout out to Paul Ray and the winning of the awarding of the toll credits to make the North Tannery Trail a reality. And I appreciate the manager giving you a shout out in his weekly comments to us. And so congratulations and thank you.
Ms. Holder?
I want to thank, even though they've gone, for the ones who received the recognition for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, of which I am a proud survivor. And this summer, my daughter was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so we're looking at this from a totally different angle than we did last year this time. And she's in the hospital even as I speak in Atlanta. So your thoughts and prayers are deeply appreciated. And if you don't see me, more than likely that's where I am to support. She's my only child. And unfortunately, it runs in our family, so we're there. But I appreciate the recognition even for that. I had her permission to mention this tonight because I knew we would do the recognition. But she's fighting, and she's talking, and that's important. But I also see as a mother the ups and downs emotionally. So keep us in your thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely. Mr. Weiss?
Yeah, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she fought it and survived. And you can do that. It was a hard battle, but we will always be thinking about people with that struggle. Domestic violence is something that is unimaginable to me, that we live in a society where that many people are impacted. Those numbers actually, I actually didn't have any idea it was that severe. And it makes me think about where we were a year ago. we had just been hit by the greatest natural disaster this community and a lot of communities have ever seen. We came together in a profound way to help each other because we had a common thing to fight against. And I feel in the past year we've made huge strides in our community. The city and our staff have done so much. But I do feel that sometimes we're back at each other's throats again, and not just the community, but this country as a whole. I would hope that we can remember that we're all human beings, we're all Americans, and we shouldn't have to have a common enemy to fight against to be able to come together. I'm trying to keep that in my thoughts because I struggle with that also. Thanks everyone for coming to speak to us as always, really appreciate it. Without our citizens, we would really be twiddling our thumbs up here, so thank you.
Mr. Daniel.
Well, this may be a little mundane considering the importance of the other things that have been discussed, but I'm going to just tell a story. My wife just had both knees replaced and is recovering very well, but one of the things she does is goes walking, and so I was walking with her on the bike trail, had my dog, and a fella comes up behind us on a bike with no notification, and startles my wife, who then steps right in front of him, and came that close to hitting her. I've talked about this before in this sitting here, and it becomes very personal at that point, that there needs to be some kind of there needs to be notification on the trail, and I think there needs to be patrolling on the trail. That's all I have.
Mr. Baker?
Yeah, I think the manager is going to talk more about the Tannery North section, but I'm excited to hear that we're on track for that and look forward to having that complete this winter, or, well, started this winter and into the spring. And something random that is happening to one of our neighbors, I'm just now realizing I'm mentioning Mills River again, but they had that giant mulch fire going on in Mills River right now, and I wish Bradley was still here, but it just made me think, I know we've got a couple of those not too far outside of the city limits here, up Greenville Highway and in some other places, and I know they're mostly outside the city, but particularly with Hurricane Helene and debris still being around, just wondered if it was worth touching base with the county and other departments to make sure that we're being safe with those and have plans in place for all that. So, sir, that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Attorney?
Just a reminder, we have very brief closed sessions after.
Madam Clerk?
We just made a couple of appointments, and Mr. Wise, or Mr. Morrow, mentioned how we have a number of applicants for different committees. But there are some upcoming vacancies that are advertised on our website. So anyone interested, if you want to go to our website, check out the front page under our news feed. There's some links to the available committees that have upcoming vacancies. Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Councilman Morrow, I have additional good news about the toll credits. So already the information that I shared with you in my memo was good, but I actually made a mistake. And then, so I need to correct myself, but it actually works in our favor. So in my memo, I said that the toll credit would only cover the match for the second tranche of carbon reduction funds. Well, it turns out that it covers the match of the first tranche too.
Oh, nice.
And so the money that we had budgeted in our own budget to cover that can now be redirected to another trail project. So the toll credits is going to save us more than just $750,000, but as a matter of fact, about $112,000 of our own dollars as well. That's the correction I needed to issue, and it's some positive news. And like you, I want to say thanks to Paul and his crew for coordinating that grant application. Also regarding the planning department, next week at the North Carolina APA Conference in Charlotte, they will be recognized with the Marvin Collins Outstanding Planning Award in the Resilience and Sustainability category for the Times Arcade Alley project. And the Marvin Collins Award is the highest award that the APA in our state issues. Mac, you received one 2 years ago for your advocacy of Bracken Preserve, but we're going to add to our trophy case because we're going to get another one here next week for our work on Times Arcade Alley. So congratulations to Paul and them for that recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. It's all about our incredible staff. That's why we are able to do so much. And that's why we were able to come through Hurricane Helene so well, recover so well, and continue to make Brevard such a special place. So yes, congratulations to the planning department. Thank you, Mr. Manager and staff, for that very comprehensive and very good one-year look at what Helene cost us and what we have done to move forward from it. That is just so important. And just a couple of reminders. We have a lot going on in October. Wednesday is Bike to School Day, so let's be very, very careful. We're going to have a lot of children out on bicycles. So I know our guys will be out there, the Bike Alliance will be out there, but just awareness is always so important. We have Halloween Fest coming on October 25th. Again, that's going to be a big downtown festival. It's going to be bigger than past years. It's actually going to go into the evening. So again, put that on your calendar. And of course, on Halloween night, we'll be closing our regular street closures and doing trick-or-treating over on Maple Street and Park Avenue for several thousand young trick-or-treaters that we are always looking forward to that being a great community family night. So, and finally, the next Meet the Mayor is October 21st from 5 to 6:30 in here. That is your monthly opportunity to meet and chat directly with the mayor, and I encourage people to take advantage of it. And we have 2 closed sessions. So with this, I need a motion from council to go into closed session.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Mayor, I'd like to ask that we invite Burton Hodges to both closed sessions.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Right, we are now in closed session. Please clear the room and please stop the broadcast.